So I'm going to press record now. I did all that beautiful introduction of you guys and didn't press record. This is what I always got to remember to do, press record. So I'm press record now. So we're going to get into the nitty gritty. And, you know, I just want to say I'm already inspired by you guys being on here, understanding, you know, dealing with sickle cell, whether you're a family member, whether you're yourself dealing with it, is not an easy thing to deal with. And Ulysses, you just came out of the hospital last week. And, you know, you were so worried because we wanted to do this show about a week or so ago, but I said, I'm not doing this show without Ulysses, and we're going to wait because people have to understand what it is that sickle cell can really do to a person and how it affects you. So let's start, you know, we're in our living room, and, you know, I know some about sickle cell. I have friends like yourself. I have, you know, some of you may know my friend Naomi. She has 3 kids, and 2 out of her 3 sons have sickle cell under 10. And so you guys have made it to adulthood. And how did you, and anybody can jump in, how did you first come to know or come into contact with sickle cell? Who wants to go?
I can go first. For me, like, the story is a bit complex, but I'll make it simple. Like, in my family, my mom and dad had 2 kids before me, and the one just before me passed away at a young age. So she was a toddler when I was born. And so when she passed away to complication with sickle cell, but they didn't know she had sickle cell at the time. So when I was born, I was like always crying, like there was always something wrong with me. And my mom, based on the experience that she had with the one that passed away, she was looking at me very closely and saying, like, there's something wrong with this child. So I was born in Toronto. We went to different hospitals in Toronto, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. They were always saying, like, it's growing pain. It's it could be just like, you know, just give him like some Tylenol and it'll be okay or whatever. Like there was always dismissing there was an issue. So about when I was 2 years old, my family went on a vacation in Haiti and got sick in Haiti. So while I was sick there, one of our family friends, like a good friend of my mom and my dad, was a doctor, and referred us to go to see like a specialist to check to see what was wrong. And that specialist was Dr. Yvette Boni, and she's a doctor that operated in Montreal. She's the first Black doctor that did a bone marrow transplant on sickle cell disease. She's very well known in the sickle cell community in Montreal, or in Canada, actually. I believe she retired now, but even though she retired, she's still working. So she's the one that actually diagnosed me when I was in Haiti, and then she moved to Montreal. And when we came back to Canada, my parents moved to Montreal, and then she's been into my care since. So I would say at a very young age, since I was diagnosed, we were aware that there was something wrong, that I was sick. So I'll be getting, like, you know, medication like that adult takes when I was a kid. Like I was a child, I remember, like, you know, I was about 8 years old, and I was taking like something like, is it codeine? I was taking codeine at 4 years old, and at 8 years old, I started taking something like morphine.
I can't even take codeine.
There you go. So it's very strong. So can you imagine, like, you know, as a child, you're taking, like, you know, codeine and then morphine and then whatever, like, you know, narcotics that you're taking, and you keep going higher and higher and higher in dose. So at a certain age, like right now, I don't want to jump into the story, but right now, like I'm in my 40s, and I have to take medication that's really, really, really strong. And I take something called fentanyl. And that caused problems because when I go to emerge, a lot of doctors don't want to give me the medication that I need to take because they are worried about, you know, overdosing me, etc. But if they understood that I've been taking strong narcotics since I was 8 years old, now in my 40s, like the dose that you would give a normal person, you cannot give me. It would be like Tylenol for me.
Right.
So that's something that the understanding is not there yet, but that's what needs to be at a certain level.
So
So
that's
that's me thinking the story. But
yeah.
like,
So that's
to answer
definitely
your question directly, I was knowledgeable about my illness since I was probably like 4 years old.
wow. That's young, my friend. That is young. And I think this is a note that we definitely have to make sure in our action points tonight that we talk about the advocacy piece and the understanding and what maybe we can do to let the medical field know, because I know there's so much advocacy has been done over the years. I know Lily Johnson, the founder of, Sickle Cell Association of Ontario, she was so advocate in it, and I've met many people. Um, it's one of those things that we have to be mindful of. And as I say, Lily Johnson, Miss Johnson, I feel like I should say Auntie Lily. I don't even feel like I could say Lily. When you think of Miss Johnson, it's like she is just like the matriarch, one of those pillars that you just so. I remember seeing her for the first time. I can tell you, I've met lots of celebrities. You know that. I've worked with lots of celebrities. I mean, I've worked with Dr. Phil, right? When I saw Lily Johnson, I felt I was like among the most royal people, and I started to cry just thinking about her. I just like I teared up. I was like, oh my God, I'm meeting Lily Johnson. It it's like those are the people that make me kind of go like, Husa, yeah, these are the sheroes and heroes. And speaking of Miss Lily, I'm gonna throw to Lisa. You're now like the president.
Yes.
So how did you come into contact knowing about sickle cell?
Well, my mom had sickle cell. I think I became really aware of the disease and really what it's like living with it in my teenage years. My mom herself didn't really know as a child that she had sickle cell disease. Growing up, she grew up in Jamaica and she grew up in the country. So she used to have crisis all the time as a child, but no one ever diagnosed her with sickle cell. They would give her, the usual explanations that you'd hear back home. You're having growing pains. Sometimes she was even told that she was trying to avoid helping out with the work, so she's pretending to be in pain, but she was never formally diagnosed with sickle cell.
Right.
Both my sister and I were born in Jamaica, and while she was pregnant the first time, they did explain to her that she had something, but they didn't explain what it was. And basically at that point, they told her, well, she was in her early 20s, and people your age that have this are usually dead by this time. So wow. They gave her nothing further than that. So it was really when she immigrated to Canada that she was formally diagnosed with sickle cell disease and was given a full explanation of what this disease does to her body and how to really live with the disease, and what kind of lifestyle changes she needed to make and what she was going to expect having the disease. And my sister and I joined her here in Canada. We were in our teens, and it's really through the lived experience of living with her that we really got to fully understand what sickle cell was. We also have a cousin that have it here in Canada, and several other family members in Jamaica, one of whom had passed away from sickle cell disease. But it's really through living with her and her bouts of going to the hospital, and all the other follow-up issues that come with sickle cell that I became really involved with the cause for it, and wanted to make sure that those who have it are able to live a full and a full and nourishing life.
And so your mom made it to, is it 70?
My mom was 70 years old, so she was a very strong.
There is inspiring.
Pardon?
That right there is inspiring. She made it.
Yes, she she was strong in her faith, and she fully believed in the promise of the Bible that, you know, you get your 70. And her faith is really what kept her, part of what kept her going for so long, and never giving up. So I'm glad that she got her 70. She was the second oldest person that's involved with the red blood cell clinic downtown.
Right.
Just really a warrior in every sense. A warrior in every sense.
Well, I would have loved to meet her, but I know just by meeting you, I'm meeting a piece of her. So that in itself tells me the kind of woman that she was. She left a legacy in you, Miss Lisa.
Thank you. I just hope I can do her justice.
Well, I'm just gonna say, okay, lean in. You know, I'm just gonna say, Lisa, you're already doing her justice.
Thank you.
You know, I don't think you have to hope. I think you're already doing her justice. And so I really thank you for sharing that. And it's, you know, to think, you know, when you think of the Caribbean, this is another place that we have to hit. And, you know, however we can get this message out there, especially for young people being misdiagnosed, undiagnosed, that's key. So I know the work is huge and it's big. So let's make sure we're going to do as much as we can to get this word out here, because we cannot have people being misdiagnosed and underdiagnosed.
Right.
Lady Serena, girlfriend, how you?
Hello.
So tell us how you ended up in this journey with sickle cell.
Well, I was born with sickle cell SS, which is one of the most common forms of sickle cell. And I was born in the States, so New York, where they were familiar with babies being born with jaundice. And they would always test and double check and make sure. So they tested me when I was born. I was jaundice. They tested me and realized that I have sickle cell. And that's when they told my parents. My parents did not know anything about it. They got tested and they both had the trait.
Wow.
So, and we didn't even know I didn't know, and my sister didn't know that she had the trait till she was like 18, 19. And it looks like our parents didn't tell us. I don't know why not, but it wasn't really something that was talked about now. So when I realized what was going on is when I was always going to sick kids. I didn't really know until one time I remember I was just absolutely upset that I had once again not feeling good, and I'm at the hospital at emergency. And I remember the doctor, back then my doctor was Dr. Ulysse, and she came out and said, Serena, you have to be admitted. And that I just started bawling. I started crying to my parents. No, I want to go home. I want to go home. I think that's when I realized something's not right with me. Why I'm always getting sick and always have to go to the hospital. So I was made more aware, you know, when like projects would come up in school and stuff like that, biology projects or science projects or whatever, I would always end up talking about sickle cell. So from grade school all the way through high school, that was what I did. And yeah, it was hard when I was in sick kids, but definitely harder once I transitioned to Toronto General.
Okay, so this is going to be, we're going to go all over the place here in this one. Because, and if you don't feel comfortable at any time, you tell me, because I know this is a very personal story for you. And so, because Serena, you're a mom.
Yes.
So you're a daughter. And Ulysse, you're not a dad yet, are you?
Yeah.
No. And so we have many facets to this story of living with sickle cell. So for those just joining us, with me tonight on Inspired Conversations are some amazing humans that I am just energized to be in the presence with. Ulysse, Serena, and Lisa. And they are experiencing sickle cell one way or the other in their lives, personally living with the disease or having a loved one with the disease in different forms and fashions. So let's just double back a second. They shared, how they came to know about sickle cell. But let's tell people, what is sickle cell, because this is where I think a lot of people don't know. What is sickle cell? Who does it affect? And like, how does it affect our community? Who wants to go? Ulysses, okay, go.
Sickle cell is a red blood cell disorder. Okay, so to make it like very plain, like a normal red cell look like an oval, and a sickle cell look like a banana or a crescent. So what happened is, like, when the red blood cell, the abnormal red cell, goes to the vessel, it blocks. It doesn't carry oxygen, and that's what creates pain that we feel. So anywhere you have blood circulating in your body, you could have a sickle cell crisis, what we call a crisis. It's when the oxygen doesn't reach an area in your body, and there's a blockage, inflammation ensue, and then that creates pain, blockage, where you can, some people have organ failure. It could bring to many complications. A lot of people live a healthy, normal life with sickle cell, without having too much complication or too much crisis or too much episode, based on different aspects. Could be environmental, based on where you live in the globe. Sickle cell affect people from different backgrounds, but based on the study, it's when you look at the malaria map of the world,
Mm-hmm.
anywhere like malaria affected the globe, that's
Right.
where you'll find a lot of people that actually have sickle cell disease, because
Interesting.
at the end of the day, it's a mutation of the body to fight malaria. That's what sickle cell end up being. It's through
Okay.
generation and generation,
Right.
it's a way of fighting with malaria for people, because malaria was rampant in different places in the world where people were dying. So nature makes it in a way where to different generation, there's different mutation that happens, and then over time the red cell became abnormal, and that's how sickle cell came into this world. In terms of history, I believe it's King Tut, but I might be wrong in that. Don't quote me on that 100%. But I believe is King Tut, one of the pharaohs,
Yeah.
that died at 19 years old. And when they did some DNA testing, they saw that he had sickle cell. Actually, he died from complication of sickle cell. So that to show you that sickle cell existed. We're talking about thousands of
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
And only recently, we're talking about it's been about 100, I'm not sure about the number, but it's about 100 years that sickle cell has been put in the medical, how would I say that? Medical literature.
Yes.
Actually, I forgot his name, but it's Noel. Can you guys remember the name of the first person that was diagnosed with sickle cell in the States? He came from
the
an
dentist.
island. What's his name?
The dentist.
Noel Clement. I think it's Noel Clement. Anyway, Noel Clement he was a student. He was a dental student, I believe, and he came from an island. I don't remember what island it was.
Right.
Went to the States to study, had a crisis, and they did some tests in a microscope, and that's how they discovered the abnormal shape of the red cell. And the doctor that he was working with was doing some studies, and that's how they came out with the actual term of sickle cell, etc.
Right.
So that's about 100 something years ago, and
so we're still fighting for it to be even treated properly.
Say that again.
And we're still fighting for this to be treated properly in hospitals, and it's been this long.
Yes. So a lot of it has to do with misconception, not enough knowledge, and not enough interest put into sickle cell. Because if there was more interest into it, I believe a lot of things would have been different, would have changed. Because
sorry to cut you, Ulysses, when I think about it and we say not enough interest, we understand when we talk about Black Lives Matter, Black Health Matters, right? And if it's a disease, let's be real, we're going to put the elephant in the room. It's a disease that, really affects a lot of people that are Black. I know Mediterranean people have it as well, but it affects our population greatly. And you know, you made um, mention of the type of drugs that you have to be on to be treated with sickle cell, and and it's kind of hard for them to diagnose. And like you were saying, I remember Serena, you were even saying, you know, the challenges with the diagnosis um, early on. Like what causes? Do you know like what causes or what are the symptoms? Let's go. What are the symptoms? Like Serena, like when you were, if you were to tell people the symptoms they could be looking for in themselves, their children, what are the symptoms that someone with sickle cell deals with?
Well, it ranges throughout the years. So as a child, they will have swelling in their hands
Mm-hmm.
and feet and maybe a distended belly. And so they would be lethargic.
Oh, you just went on mute, Serena. You touched something. You touched something, Serena. Hold on. You touched something, Serena. Just now. Oh, okay, wait. Okay.
In,
There you go. You're
There
back.
you go.
okay, I'm so sorry. A call interrupted me.
Stomach distended. Stomach distended.
Yes, stomach was can be distended, and you know, when you're trying to touch them on their arms and their legs, you know, they're crying in lots of
It's like
pain.
your skin is actually hurting. Like you feel like you're just a touch you're hurting.
Well, this is for the babies. This
The
is for the
baby.
babies. This is for
Yeah.
the toddlers.
Right.
For me, when I growing up, it was the symptoms. It's pain in my knees, pain in my hips, my anywhere the joints are.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere in the joints. It was mainly my arm and my knees when I was younger.
Right.
And so when I would have, that would be that's how my crisis would start, in my knees or in my arms, and it would be in the middle of the night. So for me, it would be different. I would go to bed okay, and then in the middle of the night, I'm waking up in excruciating pain, and then I have to be you know, forwarded to the hospital. So also, let's see, there's ulcers. Um, there is, you know what? I don't know all the symptoms because what we've come to find out is that everybody's different.
Mm-hmm.
So every single person
Right.
that is living with this disease is dealing with other complications that come along with it
So,
because of the lack of oxygen that's being supplied throughout the body.
so the oxygen
So
is huge. This lack of
big time.
oxygen to the blood cell is huge. Okay.
Yes.
So I would
Yes.
say
So
the most common symptoms, honestly, like, you know, will be pain. And even in a child, like, you know, the child, like at a young age will be crying all the time. So that will be the first sign, is that it's jaundice for a lot of us, it's jaundice. But for babies, jaundice will be the first sign. The second sign will be like swelling of the limbs, and they'll be crying all the time, and it's pain. And when we talk about pain, it's pain that you cannot even
Fathom.
express or explain, because it's different types of pain in one. So it could be like, you know, you guys, stabbing pain, pulsating pain. I feel like it's an electric shock at the same time.
Wow.
I guess the best way I can put it is like, if somebody ever, like, you know, break a limb or break
Yeah.
something, like if you were into a car accident and you had like whiplash, that type of pain that you feel. If anybody got into something like that, like
It's like your whole
something
body
like
goes
that,
into shock, and your whole body
it
feels.
has to be something acute. Like, you know,
Yeah.
you break something in your body, it's something acute. You got into a car accident, like, you know, you have whiplash, like you feel pain everywhere, like, but it's constant. It doesn't, like, you know, slow down. So
Right.
imagine that pain, make it like 100 times worse.
Yeah. And I
Or
think
the best example, some people don't know, most people don't know, but they have an idea, which I don't understand how, but most people do. Imagine somebody that has cancer in terminal phase.
right.
Most of us have experienced somebody that we know that had cancer
Yeah.
or passed away from cancer, and you see like towards the end of their life when they are in terminal phase,
Yes.
and the type of pain that they go through, our pain is 10 times worse.
You
So
know,
that could give you an idea.
and I wish we could find ways to really get people to understand the level of pain, because this is also going to come into the seriousness of the treatment that has to be done. And you've all said something that, you know, when you go into crisis, and I've heard this, as you go into crisis and you have to go to the hospital, there's a window, I understand, that you need to have treatment done, or things can become worse. Explain to us, Lisa, you can jump in at any time, don't be afraid. We're all in our living room. There's some people, you know, listening in on our conversation because it's so good. But we have people listening in on here. And before we answer that question, I got the name. Someone said it's Noel Clement from Grenada. Marie Boyd put the name up here. So thanks, Marie.
Okay.
And before we answer that question, Joan Pierre is asking, can anyone answer why it is so different in people who have it? I'm not sure.
And she mean why everybody's experience is different?
Oh, that could be it, Lisa. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You got it.
Well, I mean, number one, there are different types of sickle cell.
Okay.
There's SS that Serena has, which would be you've inherited the disease from both parents.
Mm-hmm.
And some say that the SS comes with the strongest set of complications and issues. There's SC, which is a type my mother had, where she only inherited the disease from one parent, and she also inherited this type C hemoglobin, which is a different type of blood disorder, really, from the other. And people with SC, I think, tends to live a little bit longer than people with the SS. My mom's pain experience, for her, she had crisis quite often when she was younger. And as she got older, her crises were, the length of time between crises were extended. So, and we understand that is normal for people who have SC, that as they get older, they get crises less often, but each time they get a crisis, it gets more and more severe.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the case for her. As she got older, she started showing what they would consider rare symptoms of sickle cell. She, in her 60s, developed hyperhemolysis, which is basically a sensitivity now to blood transfusions. So each time she would get a blood transfusion, she basically, her red blood cell count would go lower than before she got the blood transfusion. So her body was actually eating up her red blood cells. And that's a rare symptom of sickle cell. I'm not sure if it's rare simply because we just don't have as many people
Right.
who get to the age that she did. So we just don't have the data to really say, this is what you should expect once you get into your 60s or your 70s. And that's sort of like a drawback of not having enough people make it to that age. So we want to make sure that whatever we're doing, even with my mom's case, we're trying to use that as much as we can. We're working with days to get as much information about her and her case that they can use to help to treat the patients that are still here. So when we talk about victory, that's one of the victories that she's going to have, even if she has it postmortemly, that, you know, her situation will be used to assist as many sickle cell patients as we can, and help as many as we can get to the age that she did. That in itself would be a victory.
That's so powerful. And I remember you were saying to me, Lisa, that your mom, you actually did an autopsy, and
Yes.
that also brought another bing bing moment. And are you okay with sharing that?
Yes. We did do an autopsy with my mom, simply because of how quickly she passed away after she went to the hospital. And it just basically came as a shock to the family that she went so quickly. The original diagnosis when we got to the hospital was acute chest syndrome. which is a complication of sickle cell disease. She basically went into cardiac arrest and died very quickly. So they thought that it was acute chest syndrome that in response to the sickle cell. But after doing the autopsy, we also found out she had another rare condition associated with sickle cell, which is a bone marrow pulmonary embolism. And that's something that there are very few sickle cell patients that they determined had this, and most of them, they've only determined it after autopsy, because it's very difficult to diagnose and differentiate from acute chest syndrome. Basically what it means is that when you're in a crisis, your bone marrow essentially is dying. And as your body's trying to make new red blood cells to pump it out into your bloodstream, some of that bone marrow fat can get dislodged and go out into your bloodstream. And that fat can then travels to different organs within your body and cause issues. And for her, it traveled to her lungs and brought on a pulmonary embolism, which in turn led to cardiac arrest. It's not something that, even if for her the doctors knew before she passed away, that they would have been able to do anything about, because the treatment for it is to give a full blood transfusion. And because my mother had the issue with hyperhemolysis, she wouldn't have been able to get a full blood transfusion. She also had the issue of not being able to find blood to match her blood type, because she makes a lot of antibodies in her blood. This is something that, you know, would definitely ease if we had a lot more people from the Black community donating blood. So it's one of the things that, as part of her legacy, I want to make sure that I put some muscle behind that. If I have to drag them there one by one to get more Black people to get blood into the blood system, because our patients need the blood supply. And you're more likely to get matches for your blood if it's coming from your own community. So we do need more Black people donating blood so that our patients that need it can get it. And you know, it's a life-saving, it's a life, you know, the blood is life is not just you know, a slogan. It's something that some people depend on to live. So we want to make sure that as many of our Black community as we can understands that, and understand that you're saving a life, and go out and do the blood donation if you can.
This piece right here makes me say that. And Lisa, I thank you for sharing that very personal story with your mom. And I know it's still very sensitive to you. And I know she'd be proud of you, because you're sharing her story and you're sharing her legacy, and you're continuing the fight. And as a daughter, you know, it's so important, the work that you're doing right now. And so if one of the things, you know, anyone can take away from this conversation is the importance of doing blood transfusions and going to donate blood. And donated blood is pretty simple. You go, you get checked to make sure you can donate blood, and then you go give the blood. And we need to build up the data bank for many individuals. And you're hearing, if you're listening and you're just tuning in, we're talking about living with sickle cell. And if one of the things, the takeaways, if you don't even have money to give, you don't even need money to do this. All you need is yourself and your willingness to want to help someone like Lisa's mom, or someone like Ulysse, who just came out of the hospital, someone like Serena as well, who's gone in and out of the hospital. Someone like, you know, I think of my friends, and I see Ronald Felix is on here, and he has 2 of his 3 sons that have sickle cell. He says there's no unique medication that you can apply to all depending on your level of sickle cell. This is how unique this disease is. It has the trait, the similarity is the fact that the blood sickles, but after that, the complications to each person varies. And so Serena, I'm just gonna to ask you if you don't mind sharing. If you can share a little bit about your journey, what it's like, being a daughter. You're a mom, you know, and then we can get into the relationship stuff. Get ready, Ulysses. I'm coming at you. Um, um, but what it is like to, because I think when you have to get into a relationship and thinking of having a child, what was that like for you? What has this journey been like for you as a woman?
Well, I knew the risks. Growing up, I knew the risks. They made sure to let me know through Sick Kids, through Toronto General, through my transition. I learned a little bit more about what's going on. So I knew that I had to get my partner tested. And so I spoke to him and I told him, look, I need you to get tested. I knew for a fact, if he didn't have anything, I knew that my daughter would have the trait.
Right.
At least one of my genes would be passed down to her. But I wanted to make sure that was it. And so got him tested. He came back normal, no abnormalities, because they would do electrophoresis testing, which checks for all blood abnormalities. And so it came up negative. So I was like, thank God.
So pause
Um,
right there, Serena. You said
yes,
you had to make sure that your partner got tested.
yes.
And so why? Just give us a little more as to the why the two people with sickle cell or the trait, how does that work? Because I've heard some stuff about it and I don't want to say anything wrong.
Okay, so if both parents have the trait, they have a 25% chance from every pregnancy they could have a child with sickle cell disease. It's 50% chance for a child to come out with the trait. And then the other 25%, the child can come out normal.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Right. So that's why I knew, because I have both SS, that she would at least get one of my S's, basically, and then one gene from her father. And I wanted to make sure that he got tested to see if
Right.
he was AA, which is normal, or trait, or anything like that. So we made sure to do that. And you know, um, it was a struggle, because the struggle is me being a parent trying to take care of a young life,
Mhm.
but yet I'm getting sick all the time. So when I had her, I was sick quite a few times, quite often, in and out of the hospital. It's in the middle of the night. I would have to call somebody to come, to the hospital, at least to meet with me, um, to see if they can come get my daughter, or
Mhm.
at least, keep her company. I mean, there was times when we're just going to the hospital. She's so small, and I'm taking her in the ambulance in her car seat.
Wow.
That's what's going on. And then, in emergency, she's sitting at the foot of my bed, in her car seat till somebody can come get her. But during those times, I'm getting treated. I can't tend to her. Um, it was quite hard.
And that must be very scary. Like what, as a mom, that sounds like, okay, you've just gone up the next Shiro level in my life, because that sounds very scary. And I mean, I'm thinking, as a mom, as a Black mom, hoping that, that did you ever have to encounter anything with like Children's Aid or anything? Did anybody do?
No, no. The staff there was very understanding, and I think I was lucky at that time because my sister worked at the same hospital.
Okay.
So I would wait till her shift start and tell her, you're gonna have to come get your niece because I'm downstairs, kind of thing. Because as I said, it would be in the middle of the night. It would be like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
and I know there's no one really. That's the hardest part, when you don't have anyone to really call, or not. It's not even that. It's more, you don't even want to disturb the person. You don't even want to disturb people. out of their, out of their daily lives to come tend to you and help you. And that's how it was. I never wanted to ask anybody for help because I felt like I'm just bothering them. And but the only person that really that I knew understood and would always be there for me was my father.
Well, I
So
really hope after this conversation that we're having here, and I'm seeing a couple of people saying that, they had a similar experience to you, that we can make people more aware of, as a parent, if you know a parent who has sickle cell, a mom, especially a mom, um, whether they're single or not single, because here's the thing. Sometimes people think, because you're married or you're not married, the fact is when you're in crisis, it's the whole family is in crisis and the whole family needs support. And so looking back at, and you're just sharing some of your story, and I know there's a lot to your story, what type of support would you have needed at that time, or would you also like to see for other parents with children? As you have sickle cell, but raising a child and you have sickle cell, what supports do you need?
it was always, I always needed somebody that I can call on in case anything happened. So I knew, so I would have my father, I would have my sister, who was busy as well, but she would take the time out to say, visit me the next day, not the same day, but maybe the next day when things have settled down a little bit. And that was it really. But now it's like we have the support of the community. We have people from our support group that, if I can call on now, like Ulysse, like I called him many times and he has been there for me, and vice versa. But also the fact that, if some of us are lucky enough to be able to hold a full-time job, getting sick derails that. And you need your employer to understand what's happening. And then on top of that, it depends on what type of job it is, because it might not be a salary job. Then you're in crisis, you're in the hospital, you're in there for a week or two, you're not getting paid. So we need the financial support as well. But I remember a long time ago when I needed the support very badly, and I was trying to go through, I think it was ODSP at the time, and they have their independent reviewers. And I said, well, and they said it would take, it was quite a few months before they can make a decision if I even qualify. And I said, by then I'm going to be back on my feet. It's like most of the time we need the help immediately, right away, in that moment of time, not 6 months down the road when we're going to be okay, because it's so sporadic. We don't know when we're going to get sick. It's just there. It's just waiting.
And I remember you talking to me about the ODSP thing, and I was so pissed, and I'm still pissed as I think about it. I'm pissified, if that's a word, because I think of Ulysse just coming out of the hospital. I think of, you don't know when you're going to get sick. And so if anybody is listening online, and you have connections to the media, you have connections to government, we can't all solve this problem. I know the Sickle Cell Association is doing their piece. They have their advocates, but imagine, and I'm thinking there are a lot of people who are on this board and working in the organization that have sickle cell. So that in itself is another piece. And we look at organizations like the Cancer Society and Heart and Stroke Foundation. They have a lot of supports and they have a lot of financial money. So when I think about the employment and the financial piece, it really challenges me on that piece. And, like Ulysses, you just recently came out of the hospital, and then we're dealing with COVID. Lord have mercy. And we're dealing with COVID. So there's two pieces to COVID. No, there's more than two pieces to COVID. My brain is like ding, ding, bells are going off in my head right now. Like, you have to be so careful because you can't even get sick with COVID. Because like, I don't even want to know what that could look like. So we're going to pray over that. Anybody who prays, we don't even want that. But how is Ulysses? I'm going to throw to you for a hot minute or two or three. The financial piece, how is that impacting your life and has impacted your life having been in and out of hospitals so many times, and I know you guys can't even tell me, I'm sure you can't even tell me how many hospital stays. We must add that up one day. How many hospital stays have you had altogether in and out of the hospital? And I hope some government people are listening here. And if you know people in the government, I'm looking down at my phone, I'm looking at the screen, you better tell them tune in because we're coming.
I got more than 2,000 hospital stays from
Wow.
the time that I've known you. Okay, so I don't know the
I
exact.
almost dropped the computer, Ulysses.
From the time that I've known you, I've been in a hospital for more than 2,000 times. So, like talking about hospital visits. So that's one. Number two is like having crisis. You never know when you can have a crisis. Like when I remember when we first started, like, you know, before we started the interview, I was telling you like it's moment at a time because I could be okay right now, and then like moments later, I'm in so much pain that I cannot even continue the interview. And that's the reason why we postponed the interview for so many weeks, is because I wasn't well. The financial aspect is that, okay, think about it like that, you know, the society, like, you know, as a man, you're supposed to be the one that provides, right? So going to school was challenging. Like, you know, I missed a lot of days in school, etc. Like, you know, I was able to have, like, you know, a diploma in computer graphics, but there's a lot of things that I wanted to do. I wasn't able to do it because I couldn't finish, like, you know, the time that it requires in terms of, like, you know, studying, right? And afterwards going to work. So I start working since the age of 16. So I was doing, like, you know, all kind of different type of work until I realized or understand that there's so much I can do for my body. Like, you know, it's like this, I cannot do, like, you know, manual labor type of work. Physically, I can't do it.
Yeah.
So I had to go to the experience of going to those kind of jobs. And I literally, like, I'll go and spend my first day, do an 8-hour shift, and then the next day I'm in the hospital. So it's like, it's not sustainable. So going to those experiences and understanding, like, I cannot do, like, you know, a physical labor job. I start looking at doing, you know, works, like, you know, geared towards, like, you know, customer service, tech support, and things of that nature. You know, it's okay, you know, it pays well or whatever, but the issue was always whenever I miss times out of work, you know, I get laid off.
Yeah.
You know, some will literally tell you because you're sick too much, and then that's the reason why you get let go. But a lot of times, like, you know, they let you go, that's the reason, but they don't tell you that's the reason. But you could read between the lines, that's the reason. Because, you know, before you got sick, your attendance was good. Your like, you know, whenever they do evaluation with you, like, on how the job is doing, like, you know, etc., everything is good. And then you got let go, but there's, like, you know, your performance is not the reason. Your attendance is the reason. So that's basically why you got let go. The other piece about it is, like, if you are on, like, you know, social assistance like ODSP or EI or whatever, there's only so much that money can actually do. I'll give you an example. Now with COVID, with the assistance that the government decided to give, they came out with a number that was like around $2,000, right?
Right.
If you're on ODSP, you get less than $2,000.
Yes.
If you are on EI, you get, I think is it 55%?
55% of your income.
65%
Yeah.
of your income, right? And that is less than $2,000 for most people. So how are we supposed to survive with that, right? So that's one of the advocacy piece that we want to do. It's to be able to challenge the government and make them understand that the cost of living keep going up, but the amount of money that they give us as people being on social assistance is less than the poverty level. It's like, what is that, and how we're supposed to survive on those things? And that's not sustainable. And even though you could be on let's say on whatever means of social assistance, you still have to try to find ways to how can I say that? Like round, like, you know, the number that you can, like, you know, you're going to try to do something part-time just
Yeah.
to be able to pay your
To be able to
bills.
supplement your income. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Serena has something that
Right.
she wants to jump in there. Go, Serena.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say I've been through the, through the government assistance programs, such as OW, Ontario Works, um, um, and well, I was on long-term disability for the past 5 years, but that I was barely hanging on
Right.
with long-term disability, but and then I've done the EI as well. So EI, you do the sick leave.
Yeah.
Yes, it is 55% of your income. And then long-term disability, I can't remember how much percentage, but it's very close to what your
It was
income
like
was.
60 or something, if I remember. But I haven't
And
done that in
then,
a long time.
yeah, and then there's Ontario Works.
Yeah.
Now, that program,
It's,
I
it's
don't even know why that program
a hot mess.
exists, because how do people survive? How do people, that is what I'm on right now, because my long-term disability has expired this year. And to be on Ontario Works, it's half of the income of what I was getting from long-term disability. And, during COVID, when COVID hit, I was like, what am I supposed to do now? I tried CPP, Canada Pension Plan as well. I was denied twice. And everyone's saying, try again, try again. But the thing is, I don't even know if I was eligible for CPP, is that even going to be enough?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Is OD trying ODSP right now?
so my head is spinning, and because and I'm looking at Petrina is saying, and if you don't have medical insurance, your medication comes out if that money too. And before my present position, almost quarter of my wage
Yes.
went into medication and supplements. So I'm just putting it out there because, I know that you guys are doing a lot of advocacy, and, we've got the Sickle Cell Awareness Day, and it seems that there's many facets to what people need to get at. We need where people can come on board and understand that we need blood transfusions. Is there bone marrow as well that is needed with sickle cell? I think I have frozen everybody. I don't know why my screen looks frozen. Okay, are you guys there? Okay, there you are. So you need blood transfusions.
Yeah, you cut out for a minute there, so we missed the last bit that you were saying.
So you need blood transfusions. And do you need bone
Blood
marrow
donations.
donations as well?
Donations.
Okay, and then the other part is there needs to be an understanding. So I'm going to take it in chunks. There needs to be an understanding. So everybody here, anybody who's listening now and on the replay, check and see if you can donate blood. That's the first ask that we're asking, right? So this is something just about anybody can do depending on your medical condition.
All right.
The second thing is now we're looking at medically, and this is where you guys will have to tell us where you're at in terms of the advocacy to government levels and to getting the understanding as what you want. The Sickle Cell Awareness Day is great, but what else do we need them to be aware of? When you go to the hospital, the narcotics piece is huge, because for those who missed the earlier part of the conversation, someone with sickle cell in their adult life, what they have to take for pain control, depending on the level that they're at, is very high. And you're using things like fentanyl. And when people hear fentanyl, they're thinking of drug addicts. So they're not necessarily realizing that somebody or high levels of codeine or high levels of morphine, and you need to be seen and adhered to and dealt with in a particular time. So I know you've gotten some of the fights done, but I think it's going to be, and please feel free, even after we end this conversation, to put the information so that we can share it as to how we can help, how people out there, anyone out there, whether they're a politician, a business owner, media person, what do you guys need at the Sickle Cell Association of Ontario in terms of help with your advocacy? So I'll pause right there in that advocacy piece. What do you guys need so that anyone listening can start sharing some of that out there? Because yeah. Lisa, I see,
Well,
I see Lisa and then I see Ulysses. So Lisa, I'm going to throw to you, then I'm
okay.
going to throw to Ulysses.
Well, we are currently working with the government to put forth a bill in relation to the length of time a patient is in the emergency care before getting attention, getting some management of their pain, getting some hydration when they're in the emergency room. We do have studies that show that if that is done within the first 30 minutes of them being there, it not only helps to alleviate the pain that's associated with the crisis that they're there for, but it may also help to reduce the length of the stay that they may have in the hospital, because you're not allowing the pain to escalate to a point where they need to be there for way longer than if you had attend to them within the first 30 minutes. When my mother was brought to the emergency care, I saw firsthand that this is not being done right now in all hospitals. She was there for an hour before she was even given some pain medication, and she came in a wheelchair, could barely walk, and in active crisis. This is something that shouldn't be happening in any hospital. And where she went, obviously they also knew that it wasn't. We have actually met with that hospital and spoken to them about her care and the results of the autopsy. And they do understand that what happened in the emergency should not be happening when any patient comes in a sickle cell crisis.
Is there like a bracelet that someone can wear when they go to the hospital? Like, is there anything, now you know how they have, like, is there something that can be created like a sickle cell bracelet? I remember bringing this up to Jane Cordy years ago at the Senate and saying, is there some sort of a bracelet that we can probably think about? Would that help?
Well, from what I understand, there at one point was even a letter, and probably Ulysse and Serena can speak better to that initiative that was in place. And oftentimes the letter would be ignored when they come to the emergency, explaining that they have sickle cell, and hoping that would give them fast treatment when they got there. But that wasn't the case when they do get there. So I think with us advocating more on a policy level to have this implemented as a policy throughout Ontario, where all the doctors have to follow the same procedure, whether you're at a hospital like TGH, where they're very familiar with sickle cell and they have a red blood cell clinic, or you go to a hospital up in, Sault Ste. Marie, where they may not be seeing sickle cell. You should still have the same treatment no matter where you go in Ontario. And that's what we're trying to work actively right now and advocating to implement.
Ulysses?
To add to what Lisa is saying, the second thing that we would advocate about is to have sickle cell recognized as a disability across the board.
Right.
There's a list of, I don't remember the number of the top of my head right now, but if you go under the government, under disability, there's a list of different illnesses that is listed as a disability. And if sickle cell was to be listed as a disability on the provincial level, on the federal level, it will make it easier for people to have something like ODSP or any kind of like disability income, So that's a major piece that we would want to advocate on and to make it reality,
So have you been able to meet with like the so like I know the Liberal Party has a Black caucus on the federal side. I'm not sure about the Conservatives. I know the NDP on the provincial side has a Black caucus now. Are you able to meet with these? Have you been able to set up meetings with any of these or groups to say, okay, this is what is before you? And I mean, like right now, if you met with them in the past, maybe it's time to meet with them again, because, we're talking about Black racism and anti-Black racism, and everybody is suddenly aware about things that we were saying a long time ago. Go, Ulysses.
Since COVID, everything's been on a halt. But before that, we've been involved with different parties and advocating on those different points. But COVID's been a pain in since
Now we have Zoom. So now we have Zoom. How can we help you ignite? If there's a way that anyone listening here, I'm not saying me in particular, but I'm doing my best right now. If there's anyone listening here that can help light a fire to help you guys light this fire, because there's a crisis, and this is a sickle cell. You go into crisis, and now you have the COVID, and then you have anti-Black racism, and now you're a pause, and your finances, and so if anyone is listening here that can help you, we're going to make sure that we put information in the comments below that they can contact, because all of you are on the board of the Sickle Cell Association of Ontario, right?
Yes.
And so, you know, if we need to have a strategic planning session, however anyone can help you, you will let us know, and we'll drop some comments and send out the word. Ronald Felix is on the ball here. Sickle cell as a disability, creation of the sickle cell database registry, and uniformalization in the healthcare system are some of the three asks that's in the letter. Thanks, Ronald. He's on point. His son is his son, who is not even 10, is actually one of the spokes humans, and he's based out of Montreal, speaking up for sickle cell because he has sickle cell. So that's really good. And now I see Petra. We're getting some great comments here. And if you have any questions, anyone has any questions, be sure to drop them in the live. Now I'm going to get personal for a second. I'm going to come out of the high-end stuff because I'm trying not to want to beat anybody up right now, my brain. But how can your community, like what type of volunteers do you need at the Sickle Cell Association of Canada? And then what kind of help do you need personally? So like Lisa, you're a daughter. You just came out of the hospital. Serena, I know any moment things can change, but I'm praying nothing changes right now. But you just said you came off your long-term disability. You have to go on Ontario Works. And we have a challenge in our community because Black people are always supposed to be strong. Black men are supposed to be strong. Black women are supposed to be strong. We're like supposed to have this supernatural strength. And yes, we're strong, but there are times we need help and we don't always ask for the help we need. And so, first of all, is there any type of food bank or that is specifically, and this, I'm just thinking about this at the top of my head, specifically, and I'm trying to say a lot of things without crying right now.
Culturally sensitive for us?
Culturally sensitive, but I'm like, I know I'm the host and I'm not supposed to cry, but
geared towards us?
Yes.
Like by us?
And how can our community come together and say, Serena, here's a gift card. Ulysses, you need groceries. Somebody says, you know, Ulysses just came out of hospital and we can send you a gift card to go shopping online. Is there anything that is set up? Because when you're in pain, there's just no way. And I know when my fibromyalgia acts up, I have no sense of, my whole body aches. And fibromyalgia pain is less than your pain. So what do you need, or do you have anything set up? Sorry, it took so long to say that because I'm trying not to cry. What do you have set up that people in the community could come forward and help someone who is in crisis, who's in a hospital, that they can probably come through the organization and say, here, and then you guys can be in contact because you know who's in crisis because they contact you. Sorry for that long-winded question.
Yeah, take that.
Well, we do have a program running through during COVID where those with sickle cell can go online and apply. Actually, sickle cell and the trait, right, Ulysse?
Yeah.
Yes. So with sickle cell or the trait, you can go on our website and actually apply through the UGMA COVID Relief Fund. And they have a chance as an individual to get a gift card for $75. or a gift card for $150 for a family. And so we started that out in the summer, and it's up on our website, www.sicklecellontario.ca.
And if anybody wants to
Actually,
donate, they also donate.
and then if anybody wants to donate, it's all there on the website. You can donate monetarily, and pick where you want the money to go, and we would make sure to help others that are in need. So
So
that is out there for those
Ontario.
who are not sicklecellontario.ca.
Okay. Go ahead.
And so then that's going on for those obviously outside of the organization. So for a person like me now, with my limited income, I had to access these food banks. And I did write my MP, MPP, Toronto counselor, everybody, and I asked them, what are they doing for those who are disabled? What is happening during COVID for the disabled? And I got a list of the food banks, realized that there were some very close to me, and they have been absolutely wonderful to us. I've taken other clients with me. It's every week. I've been going every Wednesday since COVID hit. Every Wednesday I would go, and I would go with 2 or 3 other clients to make sure that everybody's getting, something from the food bank. Actually, we go to 2, and then there are some programs within the community, but everybody doesn't know about it. We only find out about it if we're, browsing through Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. Like we'll see these things. I'll see these things out there, send them out to everybody, and let them know. Look, there's this type of program out there where they can, buy your groceries and bring it to you. There's one that you can donate to the organization. They'll send you a box on the weekend. I've done all of it. I've done everything. So there's one coming up.
What I'm
through
going to
C5,
ask,
I think it is, the Caribbean Women's Organization and stuff like that. So
what I'm going to ask you to do, and if possible, maybe put it on the comments here as even after the show, if you have links to where someone can donate outside of Sickle Cell Association for someone with sickle cell, if an organization wants to come in contact with you, let's make sure and put up that information for you, Lisa and Ulysses. So if somebody needs help with grocery shopping, so there are some people who may not have the finances, but they have a car, right? So if I were to think from what you're saying to me, would it be helpful, you guys tell me, would it be helpful if you had volunteer drivers to deliver groceries to somebody who couldn't get to the grocery store?
yes, it would help because that's what I'm doing right now. I'm
Right.
helping others. Just last week, we helped somebody get some groceries. He wasn't doing so well. And then it just dawned on us, well, do you even have any food at home? And, we had to stop and make a grocery run. Or, there's those that come out of the hospital, just need help maybe that night to settle in. We'll help cook a meal, and just spend some time with that person and just make sure they're okay. They've taken their meds. They have their heating pad. They have their water and everything, and tend to them that way. We just help in any which way that we're capable of doing. And we have another colleague on the board as well. She's heavily involved as well in the community, and she's with me right there. Marie, she's there with me when we have stuff to do as well. We'll get in contact with Ulysse. He is the patient support board member. So we do provide a lot of support, but we do try to find other resources out there. And yes, so if other organizations have services that they can couple with our support, then we are, open to it completely.
So Lisa, you're the tech, you're the president, but you're the tech guru, right? So
yes. Well, we do have a form on our website currently. If they go to sicklecellontario.ca, under About Us, you can find out how to become a partner. It's under Get Involved, become a partner. And if there's an organization out there who offers current services, whether it's in helping with food security, helping with home care, any kind of service like that, and they feel that partnering with us would actually reach a larger demographic, then we're certainly open to it. They can just fill out the form, send it to us, and we'll contact them right away and discuss how we can make the two of us could come together to actually make a unificially beneficial relationship to the community.
Because it sounds like you guys are a working board. This doesn't just sound like a governing board. This sounds like a board that's a working board.
We are a full working board, and
100%
on the ground, full working board. So no, we're not policy making. We get down in the trenches, and whether it's, if like Serena says, you need to drive to somebody's house to assist them when they're in their time of need, and that's the requirement at that time, and that's what we're going to do. If it's advocating with the government and going to government meetings, that's what's needed at the time, and that's what we're going to do. But we are full and complete working board.
Ulysses?
To answer your question earlier, when you were talking about when we talk about something specific in our community, in terms of what can be done, I'm using it myself as a personal story to answer your question. It's like, I just came out of the hospital. What do I need, right?
Yes.
The first thing, like Serena, you answer like food security, giving help with groceries, etc. But there's another part that we don't really talk about often. But it will be somebody like a PSW, somebody to come and help you at home, somebody to help you cook a meal, somebody will be able to help you clean up the house, or whatever care that you need at that point. It's just the first, I would say for me personally, the first week is usually very, very hard. But afterwards, you start to manage a little bit. But for me, I have family support that helps. But for the people that don't have any type of support or family in Canada, because we have a lot of immigrants that came from Africa, from the Caribbean, like other places, and they don't know nobody in Toronto, and they turn to the organization, but they need that kind of support in terms of some a personal support worker that can come and help them do little things. When you talk about people that can help, that would be my call out there. It's if there's any PSW out there that, or nurses that would like to volunteer sometime to do that piece particularly, I think that would be something that would be very helpful.
So I'm making a list here. I'm just going to put this in the comments. So if you're listening live, on the replay, because I'm gonna boost this post. I'm gonna pay the money and I'm gonna boost this post so that we can get it out there and get some more listeners. And we're gonna put it on our YouTube channel and however else we can get the word out there. But so volunteer drivers. So volunteer drivers that can do groceries, volunteer drivers that can help take somebody, pick someone up from the hospital. And if you're driving, you need some gas cards. So we need gas in the cars because Serena's not working, Ulysse is not working, right? And Lisa's supporting a friend. And so we need gas cars so that the rest, and Marie is driving too. So they need gas. Okay, so anybody connected to Petro Canada, I don't care, whatever gas station you are, we need some gas cards. And we're gonna make a list and we're gonna send this out here and attach it to this podcast. And then we need some nurses and some PSWs and those who are retired nurses and stuff like that. And I'm calling on the men to step up because listen here, the men, men need men. And so I'm going to be calling out to my male friends and I don't know who's listening. And I mean, we have the Black Health Alliance, I don't know what they can offer. Paul Bailey, I'm calling you out. we see this organization that's been formed, and I'm telling you, I'm having a conversation. I'm in my living room. I don't know who's listening, but I hope somebody good is listening. I see West Hall and the whole tribe of people are coming together and saying CEOs are doing this and that, and Black Lives Matter. So if Black Lives Matter and Black Health Matters, can anyone put their money where your mouth is? So even if it's $5, $10, donate to the Sickle Cell Association, because understanding that the fight that you have to even get disability, and a lot of people, and you know, I know the battle to try and get disability. I know so many friends, and I know having conversations over the years about getting disabilities, and then also the parents who have to, whether you're a parent and you have to keep taking the time off to go take care of your child, or you yourself have to take the time off. And I also remember, like, you know, it's prevalent in our Black community, even when I have a friend who, it's not sickle cell, but her son recently passed from cancer. And she said when he had to go through his bone marrow transplant, one person had to just stop working. There was just no way the two of them could stop working. And I don't think people realize the challenges that Black families are going through in terms of health, you know. And then, you know, Lisa, I'm thinking about you, and I think about your mom and going through that. The time it needs to really just deal with this throughout the years. You've been watching your mom be ill. So that's a mental stress on you. So we need the counseling services. So, you know, if anybody is a counselor and they know of counseling services that will, or organizations that would love to partner with Sickle Cell, because I'm sure the mental stress of what you have to go through, I can't begin to imagine for either of you. And for those listening, you know, and the parents who have to deal with it. So how can we support you? And so this here is so impactful, and I'm so grateful that that you are all have been willing to help. And I'm trying to be cognizant of time, because I normally aim for, you know, like we're you know, having a conversation, but I know, Ulysses, you've been recently out of the hospital, so I want to make sure that I don't overtax you tonight. But I love seeing you, and I know many people have been asking about you, Ulysses, people from back in our past, and Serena. And, you know, I'm really grateful that, you know, for all the work that you're doing. And I'm going to just go through the comments here, and I'm going to ask, let's see here. Petrina, woo, Petrina, hold on. Let's see what she's saying here. A good support system is key for anyone with sickle cell. True, Ulysses. People don't understand that the recovery after a crisis is real hard. Many don't understand that we will start something like cleaning and have to stop in the middle because of the onset of a crisis. And it will take a while to start again. Grocery shopping is tiring, and it takes a lot out of me to do. I have to rest the day after. I will push when I'm able, because I don't know when I'll be able to have a good day again. But that too sets me back, because I try to do what I can when I can. And so I can imagine the amount of guilt. Is there, you know, is there guilt? Is there a shame? Like, what are the emotions that one feels when one can't complete a task?
You see, when you talk about shame, I think for sickle cell, for whatever reason, I think sickle cell is probably one of the most so this specific. I won't even say it's from Black people, because I've talked to people from different backgrounds that also feel the same type of shame that comes with it. So I cannot even understand, even though I go through it, but I cannot understand why people feel shameful about it. But I would say, like, you know, that's the number one reason why a lot of things hasn't been done to the point where other illnesses are compared to sickle cell, is because, number one, a lot of us don't want to come out and talk about it. That's number one. That's the number one issue. Number two is, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, I'm not going to be politically correct here, but religion did a number on us, because a lot of people think that having sickle cell is a generational curse. It is not, but a lot of people think that way because of religion, and they don't want to talk about it, because, you know, who's going to want to come out and say, like, you know what, you are generationally cursed? Like, that's the number one reason a lot of people don't want to talk about it. Number three, I would say, in our culture, like, you know, like, back in the islands, as an example, I don't know if it's the same way in Africa, but I'll say in the islands because that's where, like, my parents from. It's like if somebody is mentally ill, as an example, right? And they say this person is crazy, their life is the life perspective of that person is to live, like, in a bubble. So basically everybody says, like, so and so is crazy, don't go close to that person, don't do whatever the person perspective, like, let's say somebody has a, back in the island, somebody has a disability, the person's life perspective is to be a beggar. Like, you'll be, like, around the public space, like the church or whatever, like you'll be begging, and that's what people,
No
like,
value. Like they place no value on your life.
yes.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, now in North America, they want to change the label of disability and saying differently able, something like that.
Right.
So it's to show that it's like, even though you could have a disability, that doesn't mean that you're disabled. That doesn't mean, like, you have challenges to do something. That doesn't mean you cannot do nothing. So it's changing that conversation, changing the mindset of people.
Yeah.
I think that's the number one thing that we can do for the next generation, so that they don't have to go to what I went through when I was growing up and what other people's, in my age group went through. So it's that if we can change, if we can start having those conversations and people come out, like, it's like me, I don't mind talking about it. From the time that you probably know me, like, I never shy away from talking about sickle cell because it is what it is.
Yeah.
So for me, it's not, but I know a lot of people in the community that don't want to talk about it. So that's a problem.
And the part of the shame too comes with having to ask for help. When you have to ask for help and you're told that you're a strong woman or a strong man, and the fact that you're not able to do, psychologically, somewhere in the back, the recesses of our minds, we believe that we're supposed to be able to, even when our body is telling us one thing, our mind is saying one thing, but our bodies are saying something else, So, Lisa, can you guys hear me okay? Yes, no, I think.
Nico, you're frozen.
Oh, it looks like I'm frozen. Hold on. It's everybody's on the internet tonight. And I see one person here putting, there's guilt as a single mother. Being a single mother, she feels a lot of guilt of single mother. And she has to and the guilt is to her child because she can't support her child.
Yes.
When I can't do regular stuff with my daughter.
Yeah.
And so this is another place where people who know that they have a loved one with sickle cell can step up and help. If and we have to tell people, listen, even if it's a code word, Christ, whatever the code word is you have with your friends, let them know, I need you to come and take, Mary Bell or, Tanisha or whomever for a walk, or can you watch movie night, or can you come over? I think we have to be able to put those things in place. Yes, Ulysses.
One more thing I wanted to add to what you're saying is that for a lot of families, they become desensitized by the fact that we get sick so often.
Oh.
So it's like, oh, you're going to get over it. It's like, it's another day you going to the hospital. You always go to the hospital. You're always sick anyway. So they get desensitized to a point where they don't see how their help can be helpful, if that makes any sense.
That does make a lot of sense. I can tell you it makes a lot of sense, and I understand. And people see you going about life, and they see you either, doing, here's a mistake I recognize people make. People see you on Facebook, social media, and because that might be something you're doing just to relax your brain, and all of a sudden people think you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
They know that Ulysses was in hospital, but he's on social media. Look, he's commenting. Look, he made a joke. Look, he put a post. And they don't realize you're doing that for your own self-care or just to escape. And people make the mistake of having these assumptions that you're okay. And I think that's where we have to be honest and say, I'm not okay today. And I shared it with you guys earlier, that my friend told me that, Nicole, you need to start telling people what you need, that you need a meal, that, it's just too much today. And we have to share those things. We have a lot of people with some, good comments coming on here. And I think, I just want to thank everybody for joining us and being cognizant of time, because I know this is a lot for Lisa, Ulysses, and Serena. For those of you who just joined us, hopefully you'll tune into the replay. I'm just going to say a couple things as we wind up, and I'm going to ask you to think of your last words of what you would want anybody leaving some of this conversation to know. You're listening to Inspired Conversations with Victory Speaks. My guests tonight have been Lisa Bailey, who's an IT project management professional, and she also sits as the president of the Sickle Cell Association of Ontario, and she's working hard. Lisa is actually such a brave woman to share her story tonight of her, you know, the transition of her mom and her journey. And she's lived beyond what most people would say someone with sickle cell normally would live past, she was 70 when she transitioned. So Lisa, I really thank you for sharing that story and the journey, and how even her life right now is still leaving a legacy through you. And in her transition, you know, what the nuances and the uniqueness says of, you know, her journey is going to be shared with the rest of the world. And hopefully, I believe that they're going to take what you've discovered as to help fight this fight into the betterment and to the help of others. Also joining us is Ulysse Guerrier, and he was diagnosed with sickle cell S beta thalassemia. I may be saying that wrong. I'm saying it with my a different accent of sorts. At the age of 2, and he has been an advocate for this since I've known him. I met Ulysses years ago, and he has a YouTube channel called Our Sickle Cell Life.
Our Sickle Life.
Our Sickle Life. Sorry, Our Sickle Cell Life. You see, this is what dyslexia can do to you. I saw Our Sickle Life, and I don't know what the heck I read. It's called Our Sickle Life on YouTube. Subscribe to his channel. Help him monetize his channel, and let's share his story and the story of those that he shares. He is also on the board of the Sickle Cell Association of Ontario. And also you have Serena Thompson, and she has been dealing with sickle cell since a baby as well. And, you know, Serena has shared it's over 30 years of humiliation and misunderstanding and isolation in schools that led her to continue to be an advocate. Oh, she yes, I'm listening.
It's over 40 now.
Okay, we got to adjust the bio. Girlfriend, you looking good. Damn, you look like 25. Stop it now. And I'm not just saying that. And Serena has been, you know, an advocate in this community for years. And one of the things before we go, I definitely want to shout out, and I know we know a lot of people advocating, doing advocacy. I know Senator Jane Cordy has been one of those people in the Senate, and she comes to mind because I know she was pushing. But one of the people that we must shout out really big and just share a quick story of her is Miss Lily Johnson. And if anybody wants to share who Lily Johnson is and her work and advocacy for sickle cell, who wants to go?
Well, Miss Lily Johnson is, she's an amazing, amazing shero. She was the founder of the Sickle Cell Association in 1981. She was a nurse in the healthcare system. And just from seeing how sickle cell patients were being treated when they came for treatment, just motivated her to go beyond her professional career as a nurse and started an organization that would help out in the community, providing care. She eventually became the first Black public health director in Ontario and an Order of Ontario recipient. She's 98 years young this year and is still going strong with a mind as clear as a whip, and still very committed to the sickle cell cause and the sickle cell community as a whole. Without her over the years advocating, we wouldn't have had things like sickle cell being added to the newborn screening program in Ontario. That has been happening now since 2006. So every child born in Ontario is tested at birth and will know their sickle cell status. She's also been, a great believer in education as a tool to help bring awareness to sickle cell. Through that, she's worked with Humber College to help bring a little bit of training. We wanted to build upon what she has implemented there to ensure that nurses there are coming out with some training in respect to sickle cell disease. And hopefully we can build upon that, not just with Humber College, but with other educational institutions that are training the healthcare professionals that deal with the community. But we can't say enough. I can't say enough about Miss Lily. When I met her, she was just, I couldn't believe that this woman was in her 90s and, you know, could sit with me and really has passion still about sickle cell and about the community and about the entire journey of this supporting organization to the sickle cell community. I'm sure Serena and Ulysse also has a lot to say about Miss Lily because they've been around her for a very long time. So I'm not gonna steal their thunder as well, but I consider myself blessed to have met her, and I've had a chance to spend any time with her and just learning from her.
Oh, okay. For me to add to
Yes, Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say that I just call Miss Lily my mentor, and just you know, met her back in 2009, and I just came to her and I said, you know, I'm here. I want to volunteer because I knew for years I wanted to volunteer with the organization. I just remember seeing pamphlets in my house. I know my parents never talked to me about it, but I remember seeing pamphlets of the organization in my house. And so then when at a point in time, I said, no, I have to volunteer. I wrote a letter to the organization. I said, listen, I have sickle cell. I want to be on the board, blah, 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 all this craziness. I didn't even know what all that meant, but I knew I wanted to be involved. And then meeting her at a conference, I couldn't believe it. Like at that time, she was 80 something. And I couldn't believe how spunky she was, and just, she was, you know, a force to be reckoned with, really. And so back then, you know, just listening to her speak, listening to the passion, feeling that passion from what she believes in, and she believes in education and awareness, and she believes that, you know, we must all do our part. She did pass the torch to us young people, and you know, has said that, you know, it's our turn to carry the torch and really move on with the movement, because, you know, I don't even know how we could be able to do anything that we're doing now if it wasn't for her and her colleagues who put this organization together.
Ulysses?
Yeah, for me, well, I met Miss Lee in '97. So it was like a referral from Miss Rosetta Cadogan from the Sickle Cell Canadian Society of Montreal. So, and I wanted to know what organization. I wanted to know what organization was out there that actually is doing some work on sickle cell, and she referred me to Miss Lily. So I went and met with Miss Lily. My brother was alive at the time, and we went to see Miss Lily together. And in my mind, I was expecting to you know, to meet somebody that can help. You know, I had the expectation of like, you know, receiving some kind of help. I was like very sick at the time when I moved to from Montreal to Toronto, and I would leave you guys with one word that Miss Lee told me. It was that instead of me coming to the organization and asking what can the organization do for me, she asked me what can I do for the organization. At the time, I didn't understand what it meant. I was very upset. I came back and we talked, and then like, she made me understand that it needs people like myself, like, it has to be from people that have it to truly, like, you truly understand and you truly know how it feels, and you live through it every day. We need people like you that have it to be able to carry the torch and move this organization forward so that we can bring the awareness and bring sickle cell to the mainstream. So when she told me that, I didn't get it at the time, but after a little while being around Miss Lee and see how, like, she's very stern, like, she, like, when she speak, like, you have to listen, and you can see this little, short black woman,
Yes.
doing all the work that she's done, going to parliament, meeting people from various backgrounds, various status in life, and to see her going through it, like, it's like, it's unbelievable. So it inspired me, and I met Miss Lee at the time. She was like in her early 70s, I believe, late 60s, early 70s. And can you imagine, like, she's 98 today, and she's like, she's still sharp, and that's something that, we would all strive, or we would like to have that, like, to grow older and not to lose, like, your abilities,
Yeah.
and she's actually, like, the reference for me, like, she's a mentor. She's all, like, to me, like, I look at her like, she's my grandma, like, what I mean, she's a family member, like, go visit her, go see her, like, as often as I can, and, like, she became part of my life. So
Yeah, Miss
yeah.
Lydia.
So just to let you all know, Miss Lily is doing well. We just saw her last week. So we try to visit as much as possible, yes.
I was just gonna ask, because I haven't seen her, and I put up that picture. Hopefully the picture shared properly. I should have
Yes.
probably done that better. But I was trying to get the video. I have a video, and I'm gonna probably put it in the comments. Hopefully, I have a video when she was presenting to Greg Fergus and Gary when we had a meeting at Taibu, and she gave us this passionate talk. She was doing her advocacy piece. And so when you see someone who has been doing advocacy for something like this for so long, for so many, I'm so glad to see you guys passing the torch. And as we wind down, I'm like a preacher today, right? This is my sixth close. Yes. What would you say to your younger selves?
My first thing I would say, you'll be alive.
Yeah.
That's the
Wow.
first thing I would say.
I would say
But for those who didn't know, they didn't think I would be alive at this stage. So that's the reason I say that. Is
Yeah.
because when I was growing up,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
told me I was going to pass on, like, since I was 10. So
There was always somebody willing to tell somebody with sickle cell when they're going to be dead.
exactly.
My mother had the same experience.
So what kept you going? What has kept you guys going when everybody keeps putting this death sentence on you? What has kept you going? Through the pain, through the fire, through it all. And I'm going to put this to each of you. What has kept you each going?
For me, I think it's my family. Like, my mom and my dad are very strong people, and they always made me look at things in a positive way, where even though, like, I'm going through a lot of, difficulties and things are hard, but to look at it as one day at a time. And also, like, my last name means warrior, and this is like, you weren't given that name for no reason. My first name Ulysse is mean God in Greek. It's like, you're a God warrior, so you have to keep fighting, keep fighting, keep fighting. So that's the essence of what I always, kept on fighting. And the other thing too is like, when you are sick and you go to the hospital often, it gives you time to put things in perspective. You always have time to reflect whether you want it or not. So you actually embody that essence of, like, take things one day at a time. And that's always been, like, my mentor. It's like my mentor, like, one day at a time. So that's how I live my life.
You learn a value for life. Lisa, what keeps you going? Being a daughter, what kept you going?
I think for me, it was seeing my mother's strength. My mom was somebody that she was a dressmaker. So as you know, that's a type of work where you're sitting down all day sewing. And I know that there were many, many occasions where my mom was in pain. She would, relay that to me, but yet still she never stopped. No matter what was going on, if she had something to deliver, it was never late. I'm learning that more and more as people now come to me now that she's passed, and they'll say to me, well, I didn't even know your mom had sickle cell.
Wow.
And it was a lot because she didn't cry about the pain. She didn't let it stop her. She was just always going. And that strength is something that I said, if she can go through that and keep pressing forward, keep believing in, having her religious belief and believing in God and, hope of a better life, then how can I not continue on with her? Whether it was, staying at a hospital all weekend, to me, that didn't compare to what she was going through. And she was handling it like a warrior. So there was no way that I couldn't keep going because she wouldn't stop going. And until her body actually gave out on her, she kept on going. Mentally, she kept on going. And I think as family members of those, those who are supporting, I know it can be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Ulysse was saying that a little earlier, he was saying that, family members get used to seeing sickle cell patients go through the experience and kind of then become numb to the pain. I don't think it's so much numbness. It's just that you are so used to seeing somebody go on the brink, but fight against all odds to come back, that even when that moment comes, when that last fight is the last one, you're still not expecting it because you're expecting that this person has it in them to continue because they've done it for so long.
That's big. That's big. Yeah. That's big. That's big. That's big. I see a book coming in you. I see a book, like the wisdom that you have shared, just even in that moment. You shared a lot of wisdom tonight, but just that moment right there, that's big. That's big, beloved.
Yeah. But I say to family members that are supporting, just keep walking the walk with them, because you can't fully understand. I mean, my mother has tried over and over to explain the sickle cell pain to me. I remember the last time we talked about it, she said she's given birth naturally twice. And she said to me, having gone through natural childbirth twice, she would take that pain over a sickle cell crisis because it was easier to bear. And to see somebody going through that and they're handling it, with grace and faith, it makes you not want to give up. And you shouldn't give up on them. Even when it's hard, if you need to step back for a minute and, speak to somebody or just take a mental break yourself, that's okay. It's not wrong to do that, but don't give up. That's what I would say to the families.
That's good. Serena, what keeps you going, baby?
I think the question is who kept me going. And I think in the middle of my prime 20s is when I met a doctor, and he absolutely changed my life. I was sitting here listening to everybody and I'm trying to think like what really made me want to keep going. And it was him who was there for me. He got to know me. He understood me. He, so I guess he got to know me before. Well, I mean, the first time I saw him, I was sick. But after that, you know, became my doctor, and he understood me, and understood, um, you know, the circumstances around me, and what could be, you know, inducing the sickle cell crisis each time. Back then, it was stress. You know, through high school and college, there was stress, stress at work, stress with, you know, raising a child. He
Mhm.
was, you know, when I was pregnant, he said, "Are you sure you want? You sure? Are you sure?" And I said, "I'm absolutely sure." And he's been there every step of the way. And even though he's retired now, I can still contact him anytime I feel, just to give him an update. He's always curious about what's going on in the community and with his old patients, and just with everybody. And you know, I'm able to update him and stuff like that. But I think he was the main person because that had me going, because he would ask me most of the time, "How come you're so calm? How come you're so how come it doesn't bother you?" I didn't know what he was talking about, because for me, when I get sick, it's like I guess I was trying all those breathing exercises and stuff like that even before I got involved with yoga and
Right.
deep breathing. So it was something that I learned where, okay, I have a crisis. It's panic mode, but you know, I know that he's going to be there to take care of me, and that I'll be all right. And so I think that's what kept me going for about 25 of, yeah, the last 25 years of knowing him. And you know, having family understand more and more
Mhm.
with what I'm going through. Because I still have anything I'm doing sickle cell related, I tell everybody. I'm telling everyone, you know, especially my family, extended family. I'm getting them involved one way or another. And so that's pushing me more. And being able to um, actually uh, project my voice out there and let people know what's really going on in our lives and how it affects us through other committees, as you mentioned, that I was on. Just being able to be, I don't know where I find the time, but just being on those committees, or at least, you know, being a guest speaker somewhere, because they really are interested in wanting to know how our lives are being affected, especially with all the Black anti-racism and systemic racism in the healthcare system, and you know, other issues like that. But yes, it was definitely my doctor that really made me realize that things will be okay. And that's what I wanted to say. Like when Ulysse said, "What is he grateful when he wakes up? You know, he's alive." And I was, you know, obviously that's the same thing for me. But I would have told myself that everything would be okay. Everything will be okay. Yes, there'll be challenges.
Yeah.
Yes, there'll be obstacles,
Yes.
but you're going to be okay, because that's something I find telling the younger ones that sick kids now. Like when we go visit them, I'll tell the parents they'll be okay. Your
Yeah.
child will be all right. Because I don't know if they're hearing that from other people.
Yeah. 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 They're hearing the other things, and I really appreciate that. And I'm
Nicole, can
just
I add one thing?
I'm so appreciating this conversation. So you can say anything you want, my brother. You're my brother.
Okay,
This is for you. I'm just your host.
thank you.
I wish I could send you a meal. I should have sent you a meal before we had this conversation.
I wanted to add to what Serena is saying. That actually made me realize that, and it's very important right now, especially now, and in the sickle cell community, and that we don't have enough doctors.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doctors going in hematology because, well, to specialize in sickle cell, we don't have like, there's no succession going on. Like I've met like quite a few young doctors when I was hospitalized, and I asked them like, what do they want to specialize on? Like a lot of them want to specialize on anything. Nobody want to specialize in like, you know, sickle cell hematology. And I met a young Black doctor, and I asked her, and she said, like, you know, yeah, she understands, but she wanna go where the money is. I understand that, but it's just to show you that the doctor that Serena is talking about is like, is almost like a unicorn, because we don't have doctors like this in our community that actually, what she said, and I wanted to kind of emphasize on, is the fact that he made us feel, it wasn't my doctor's personally, but I know him very well. And a lot of his patients will tell you that, like, when he truly understand what's in the beginning, he didn't know about sickle cell, and he actually perpetrated a lot of misconception about sickle cell, a lot of stigmas and everything. But when he actually understood and really got better at it, and like he became like like when I say a unicorn, is the type of person that actually sees you as an individual, sees you as a human being. When you come to visit him, like, you know, he will ask you, how are you doing? Like, I'm not telling you how you're doing just to say how you're doing. How are
Really,
you truly doing?
really.
What's going on with you? What's going on in your life? What are you interested in? Like, taking the time to have a conversation, taking the time to get to know you as an individual. This is the, like, beside, like the doctor that I talked to you about, like in the beginning, Dr. Yvette Boni, she treated me like as if I was one of her child. I'm an adult till this day. I will always speak her name because she treated me as somebody like special. And be, like, I could tell you, like, I probably met over 1,000 doctors in my life, and I can remember only those that make me, like, that treated me well. I don't remember like, okay, I remember the one that was really, really bad. That I remember him very well as well. But the one that I truly cherish and I keep in my memory is the one that really treated me like any other patient, like special that they feel. You have doctors that treat you as a Black person one way and they treat their white counterpart a different way. That's not right, but you have doctors that do that. And so it's like you have doctors that look at us like as if, like, you know, we are, like, you know, like in the Bible, and when they say people have like leprosy,
Yeah,
like,
they scorn you.
you like a foot away or something.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of, like, you know, negative stuff going on, like, you know, in the healthcare system that's really bad. But when you have stories like the doctor that treated Serena, it's like, it's amazing. But that should be the norm, the normalcy.
Yes.
But
yeah,
Exactly.
it's actually like an anomaly.
a
That
normal
makes
thing.
no sense, right? So I really truly want to add to that. Number one is, like, we don't have doctors, like the succession right now. I don't see, like, you know, how we're gonna survive in a sense, like, you know, if we don't have any doctors, like young doctors that want to go in the field. That's a problem. And the good ones are retiring.
Mm.
So it's like we get stuck with, you know, I don't know what to say in that,
The ones who
but
just don't get it, and the rest who don't care. So this seems like another piece of the call to action, that it may actually mean some education and some advocacy in medical schools, and maybe, you know, speaking to some of those quote unquote millionaires who have the money, who want to do some scholarships, and let them do some scholarships for some young person who wants to study in this field. Now that might be an incentive for, I mean, I think sometimes we have to think outside of the box. How can we get a young person, you know, because they're young people who want to do good and are not always in it for the money, but they have to, because they don't have the money to do the education that they want. So maybe we need some scholarship donors who can put some money behind the education of those who want to study this field, because it's a breakthrough field. And if more people get into it, the money will eventually come if they see that it matters. And you know, Lisa, Serena, Ulysses. We can talk all night, right? Yeah,
Yes.
I think it's literally like we just got into the meat of it, and we're like, okay, we've been here 2 hours. Okay, is anybody still listening? But I hope there are, and some people are now coming on. But for those who are now coming on, we've been talking about living with sickle cell. You got to catch the replay. I feel like we need to do a series. If you want to have another conversation, guys, maybe we need to do one on relationships. Maybe we need to do one in the medical field. I'm going to put it out there. Anybody want to fund a mini film? Like if we can do a documentary series on sickle cell, a new one. I don't know what's out there. You guys tell me. Maybe we just need a lot of things. I'm asking for a lot of things tonight, but I'm not asking for me. I'm asking for my sisters. And when I ask for my sister, when I ask my brother, I'm asking for myself, because we're all affected one way or the other. We have friends or we have family with sickle cell. It's a disease that affects our Black community so much. And if Black lives matter, Black health must matter. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Ulysses and Serena and Lisa, please make sure and put how people can get in touch with you in the comments. Please go to the Sickle Cell Ontario.ca website to get some more information on how you can donate. And if you want to do something kind for one of them, if you want to buy a meal, Ulysses just came out of the hospital last week. If you want to prep some meals and say, okay, what does Ulysses like? And we're going to do some frozen meals. And does he have any allergies? He might need some coconut ice cream, some pone, something cultural, some sweet bread, Thanksgiving is coming up soon, and here's the thing, folks. I know you're hearing that Ulysses has family support and Lisa has family and Serena. Families get tired. Remember, caregivers are also getting burnout.
Yes.
So don't assume because there's some family support. Family gets burned out too, and they need that help. So as Thanksgiving is coming up, here's something that you can do for Thanksgiving. And if you maybe I see the Jamaican Canadian Association has a food bank thing. If they're not giving to you, I hope somebody out there is listening, that they can probably tap into what you're doing. I see that there've been meals on a Sunday that they've been preparing. So if you're not tapped into that, maybe they can tap into you and provide meals to those in your community. If there's a church or churches listening, no matter your religious background or belief, if you have a food bank or a food drive and you think you can are able to give and connect and partner with the Sickle Cell Association of Ontario. They've been doing hard work. And as you heard, Lily Johnson has been doing it since Mary was a little lamb, and she's 98 and she's still going strong. This is for those of you who are not joining, and you may not know me, my name is Nicole Waldron. Victory Speaks. This is Inspired Conversations. It's a series inside of the Victory Speaks podcast. You can catch the podcast on Spotify. You can catch it on Apple Podcasts, and it will be on the YouTube page. We'll eventually put it on the YouTube page. You can send it to your friends and families here. If you have stories that we think we need to share, if you're an author and you can help Lisa write her book and Serena write her book and Ulysses write her book, and maybe they do a fundraiser. I don't know. The ideas are endless. But I'm hoping if this has sparked something in you, that you don't just sit there and do nothing, but you can do something. You can donate blood and sit down and have an inspired conversation. If you know someone with sickle cell or family member, sit down and have that conversation. What's your journey been like? If you've never done it before, maybe now's the time to have that conversation. I know this conversation was inspiring to me. Your resilience
one thing I would like to say is that I would like for everybody to go get tested to find out whether or not they carry the gene of sickle cell. That's the number one thing I think everybody that's listening to this would be very good to at least know your genotype. Go get tested. It's a simple blood test you go do. It's called electrophoresis. You can ask your doctor to do it. You could go to community health centers that do it. I know Black Creek do it. Taibu does it. Yeah, so that will be something that if there was one thing that you guys want to go away with, go get tested.
We'll get tested.
And that's big, because especially if you're gonna go into a relationship, especially if you're thinking of having children, you need to know if you have the trait. You need to know. You just need to know.
Yeah.
And if you're having a baby, get the test. Is it automatic now that the test is a victory that it's automatic? It's in the 19 tests or how many tests that they do automatically, or you have to?
They do. It's automatic for newborns.
It's automatic
for newborns in Ontario.
So that's a victory. That's a victory. So
do you have the code for the blood donation?
Unfortunately, no, not with me, but I'll put it in the comments.
Okay,
Yeah.
put it in the comments. And anyone who's listening there on the live or on the replay, show some hearts, show some likes or whatever, comments. I see plenty of, I know, get tested. I heard great job. I see people have enjoyed the conversation. We can help donate. Yes for newborns. There's lots of shout outs. We're gonna definitely boost this post. You can see it depending on where you're watching this right now. Some of you may be watching this on my personal page. It's going to go on my Facebook page, which is Victory Speaks 77, because the 7 wasn't available. I'm all about the 7. 7 is a number of completion and perfection. I'm just saying. Victory is a life that we all strive to lead. My name means victory of the people. So that's why the victory is in there. And I strive to live a victorious life. And I hope that we can all help each other on this journey, live a life as victory, and every day victory looks different. But remember to celebrate the small victories every day, and together, as you add one drop of water to another drop of water, eventually you'll have a full cup. And may your cup overflow it today. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. Those 3 were from Arthur Ashe. That wasn't from me. And thank you for joining us in this conversation. Thank you again, Ulysses, Lisa, and Serena. I am humbled beyond measure. I am humbled beyond measure, and I am grateful to God that He allowed me to have this conversation with you. And I pray that we continue to do, and you continue to live fruitful lives, and lives that continue to impact generations to come. You're a blessing. So everyone on Facebook land, YouTube land, any last words from anyone else on the live before we end?
Nicole,
yes.
Yeah. I was going to reiterate the same thing. Thank you for inviting us, giving us this block of time on your podcast to bring awareness to sickle cell. Hopefully we can do a few more of these types of events going forward, not just during Sickle Cell Month, because Sickle Cell Awareness is for every day, not just Sickle Cell Month. So we're looking forward to being able to come back and join you again, and whether it be different topics, sharing different aspects of living with sickle cell disease. So thanks for having us.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I know you were trying from the beginning of September to get us on, and we finally made it. So thank you so much for inviting all of us, for letting us, tell our story, and hopefully we impacted a lot of people.
And Ulysses, anything else for you? Are you good?
Oh, thank you, my sister. I love you, and hopefully, I'm always there. So anytime you need me, as long as I'm not sick, I'm here.
You're a brother from another mother. I wish I could do more, but I hope the little that I've been able to do today is good. And we're going to do a series. Let's do the series. Let's make it happen. And sometimes the first shall be last and the last shall be first. So even though we've ended Sickle Cell Awareness Month on this note, hopefully it stays in the mind of many. And Black lives matter, but in order for a Black life to matter, their Black health needs to matter. Stay blessed. Have a victorious time. Have an inspired conversation later tonight, tomorrow. And I leave you. I thank everybody who's tuned in. And we'll hopefully end up with a little bit of music as we go out. Take care. Stay blessed. Stay safe. Stay well. COVID.
Thank you, Nicole.
Wear your mask.
Have a great night.